welcome back to another episode here on the Mindful Experiment. It has been a minute since we've done a solo, and it is something that, if you noticed, in the last month, we haven't been posting a lot of episodes. We've been taking some time to really reflect, and I actually been taking this whole year to reflect on what really is this podcast. What do I really want to do with it? And we're at 500 some odd episodes. Do I want to continue on? Is it something that is still as meaningful as day one creating? And we kind of shifted some gears and some vision. So we had a bunch of interviews. If you've been following us, this is, you notice we did a lot of interviews and rarely did some one-on-ones this year. And we kind of are shifting gears a little bit for the second half of the season by going to have more solos and just sporadically throw in interviews here and there. And the reason behind that is because one, we want to start to shift and really make the second half of the season about consciousness, about self-realization, about how to truly find fulfillment. Yep, the podcast is designed for all those things, whether you're in business, whether you're not in business and have a career, or stay-at-home mom, you're retired. The podcast has always been designed to help you elevate in your life in one way, shape, or form. And we really feel pulled to really start to shift gears in a sense to really start to teach this technology. And I call it a technology. It's really just a way of looking at things in a different perspective. But it's ancient wisdom. It's stuff that I've been studying for over 15, 16, 17 years. And I'm starting to put it together in a process that I really want to help the people, because my main focus has always been, since I started the podcast, was coaching entrepreneurs, business owners, chiropractors, and so forth. And we've had some great success in that journey. And we are still continuing to do that. But now I just feel compelled that I need to share this and put stuff out there for the public to help in ways for those who are seeking this deep level of fulfillment and really want to really experience freedom. And I don't mean freedom just with time and, it's true freedom from the internal war that we have going on, through the struggles that we all have within. And I don't mean struggle in the sense of how we see it in the West. It's more of the Eastern philosophy, the Eastern definition of it, that it's just some sort of a lower vibration, a lower consciousness level. And so that's kind of what we're going to be shifting gears a little bit here for the rest of season 6 as we dive in. And I'll be posting at least an episode once every other week. I mean, once a week, or possibly once every other week. But I'm looking to really share this with y'all in a way that's going to be, we've talked about it here in glimpses. And I really want to go really deep with you guys on this. So we're going to be creating a group that you can go ahead and join. We have it already. It's in the show notes. You can go ahead and do that. I also have a wait list for a group coaching session that's going to be related to these kind of concepts and much more. And it's really helping to fulfill it. I'm looking for a small group of people, only 5, that I'll work with. Once I have the wait list up to a certain number, we will open up registration in a short period of time to really learn what I'm about to share here and much more. So if you are new to the podcast, we have 518 plus episodes. Check them out. Make sure you subscribe and don't miss, and like and share. Always. It helps us. Reviews help us more than anything else. It's the way the algorithm works to get this message out there and so much more. All right, let's get into today's episode. Excited to share this stuff with you. So I want to get into, as we title it, is what's consciousness, right? What really is consciousness? And why does that matter to understand this? Because at the end of the day, when we understand the elements of who we really are, then we can take our power back. Then we can start to look at, different things and different elements of how we see our life in a different way and what we're creating. And I'll be sharing this concept in many different forms. But when we look at consciousness, right? Let's take a moment and look at you. You are you. You exist. There's something in you that's, you see your thoughts and you can hear them. You got these emotional feelings, right? You're experiencing this body and this life, but there's something deeper, right? There's someone observing that. There's someone experiencing that thought. who's that deeper element? I would say, who's the observer of the observee? Who's observing who? And there is this world around us that we are experiencing. The world comes into us, and our mind, because literally, if you look at it, life is really just atoms. That's all you're really seeing. Well, we're not seeing them, but put together, it's all it is. But the brain takes this light, right? And it renders it into an image that creates this reality that we see as our physical reality. Okay. And we see it to be true, that this is my reality and this is what life is. And these constructs of our life are what we look at and say, okay, well, here's, I'm witnessing XYZ, whatever that is in your life. That's the basis of consciousness. But consciousness is everything. It permeates all things beyond the physical. Everything that's physical has a consciousness. The planets have a consciousness. The galaxies have consciousness. The universe has consciousness. The multi-universe has consciousness. Consciousness exists on all levels, on all planes. Okay, and it's the essence that we return to. And I don't want to get too spiritual or soul-based here, but what we return to, understanding the full essence of our consciousness. Now, why is it important, though, to understand consciousness? You see, when we came into this world, I want you to think of a TV. And when you look at the TV, it's just dark. It's black. It's like it's turned off. There's nothing there. It's just pure consciousness. It's the pure essence. There's no conditioning. There's no programs. There's no scars, heart wounds, whatever the names are, traumas. There's nothing there. It's pure. It's pure consciousness. Now, as someone who is in a state of pure consciousness, they appreciate the joy of every experience that comes. There's no judgment. There's no saying this is good or all things are good. It just is. And it's coming from a place of acceptance of seeing things as is, right? An evolved human being can handle and understand to see it that way. But most of us weren't evolved in our upbringing, and some still to this day and age. And that has affected our consciousness and how we see life. So what does this mean? Well, when we look at our consciousness and we look at how our upbringing affects our life, it has shifted our consciousness in a certain way that's affecting our experience and missing out what really is there. And I'm going to say that again. This is really deep. The experiences we had in our past is creating images and overlapping them, and it's interfering with what's there. And so we're seeing things in a different realm, or we're seeing it differently than what's truly there, or with the beauty of what can be there. So we're allowing, and there's many great people have talked about this, we're allowing our past to dictate our future. Right? These are great, cool, love the quotes. They're real true. But it's really starting to understand then, well, if I'm consciousness and I am allowing the things that I'm seeing in my life, how I judge it, my preferences, and so forth, I've conditioned this, interfere with my experience of taking things as just as what it is. Instead, what I'm doing is I'm looking through a filter, right? All these different superimposed images. And through that has created preferences. And because of those preferences, you like this, you don't like that. I like that, but I don't like this. And what that does is it minimizes the human experience. And as we keep minimizing our human experience, we don't get the full roundedness of everything. And we don't see things for what could be there. And I use this example for like when I work with business clients, I tell them about level of consciousnesses, where you are, how to stay more in a neutral state, see things as what it is, create the story of what you want it to be. And when you do that, or if something negative happens, negative in the sense of how we're judging it, nothing's negative, but we're judging it that way. This is how we've created the law of duality. And so it becomes this process now that when we look at our life, we're choosing what is good or bad. We're choosing this preference. And again, when it comes to business clients, I tell them that your opportunities have always been there. They've always been there. The problem is, from your world, you were missing that because of your preferences, because of the conditioning. You're only looking in things in one way. If I look left, I miss what I see right. Don't pay attention to the left hand, just look at the right, because then you don't know what the left hand's doing. These are all things that how consciousness in the sense works, and everything of our life works. This is when we start to judge things like I have a horrible marriage, or I have, I have ill health, or my business is this, or my career is that, or all these stories in these programs, or I only like these types of people and not these types of people. And the polarity that we see in the world today, a lot of that is superimposed based upon being in there. Now, I'm trying to share something really deep with y'all in a very one episode, but I promise I'm going to build on these. So if you're listening, just going, "Oh, this guy's all over the place," just know I'm just trying to share context in different ways. I will fine tune that in episodes to come, because this is not my first conversation I'm going to have with you on this. But what I'm trying to share is that consciousness just is. There is no judgments with consciousness. Your consciousness is just excited to have the experience. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad or how we judge it. It just is. If something feels really good, awesome. Your consciousness, true consciousness, the level of the deepest element of who you are, like a kid, is just excited for that moment. Now, a kid doesn't like a negative experience, but what happens though from a consciousness perspective, and this is higher levels, you actually enjoy the negative experience because of what you're going to learn and gain from it. You know that you're going to learn something from this challenge or this challenging time. You know that you can be able to, test out your creativity, right? Or be able to see things in a different realm. How can you handle these processes? And the level of how much you can shift your mind to those realms is going to be a big game changer for you in your life and how you are enjoying life. You see, because the framework on this is that you are pure consciousness. You will always exist. Your consciousness will always exist. It will never die out. It is immortal. It is eternal. A lot of different religions talk about this as they call it your soul. And so you're here in this element called life to have a specific experience. And my purpose of sharing this with you is that I want to show you how perfect everything is in your life and why it's so perfect. And I'm going to use different strategies to show you that in episodes to come of why things are in alignment of perfection. Even though you may be looking at me, hearing me, and blaming the economy, we may be blaming this, we may be blaming this person, this situation, and all these other things. And I will tell you that everything in life will always work out for your greatest good if you allow it. Pay attention to that last thing I said there. If you allow it. Because your consciousness, soul, and so forth, wants the experience. It wants the experience at the deepest level. And what we've been doing as humans, and I don't know how long this has been going on for, I don't have any data on this, but I can tell you based on my experiences that what we do as humans is we stuff down experiences in our past that we don't want to feel, and we stuff them down and we repress them. And then we hold on to the good experiences. Like those are the only ones we're going to have left, and we want to experience anything else. And I can understand the holding on to good experiences. You had this one experience. It was absolutely amazing. And you hold on and fix yourself to that. So here's a beautiful example of what I'll share about how our consciousness, who we really are, what happens when we tarnish or we put superimpose those images, or we have the program seeing things only in a certain way. Let's say you go to a restaurant. You have an amazing experience. The food is awesome. The atmosphere, the music, everything was to the nine. It was lighting up all the preferences that you like, right? It's our checklist, as I always say. And which checklists are what's going to hold you back and not let you find full fulfillment. And there's all this, we'll get into these things, I promise. But you're filling all these checklists, right? So it's like, oh my God, this is the most amazing time. I loved it. Afterwards, you're telling all your friends about it. You got a friend coming in from out of town. You're like, oh my God, I have a restaurant we're going to. It's absolutely amazing. Oh my goodness. So here's what happens. You go that night. Your mind is still held on the old experience. You're holding on to it, thinking that restaurant is going to be at the same level again with the same experiences and everything from the last time, which it's not going to be. No experience is ever the same. But our conditioning and how our mind works and holding on, right, this creates resistance already. And the expectation, which is going to be, hey, it's either going to hit or miss. Well, guess what happens? The music wasn't right. The food wasn't at the level you thought it would have been from the last time. The waitress or the waiter didn't have the energy like the last one. The one you had, you really wanted, wasn't there that night. And your whole experience is thrown off. And all of a sudden you're like, that restaurant is it was just, we had a one-time thing. It was great. The second time, it was horrible. Didn't enjoy it. The music wasn't great. The food wasn't good. Our service wasn't that great, and so forth, right? And what you're doing is you're basing it off your last experience instead of enjoying the experience of what is. And the reason why the first one was so great is because you stayed in the present moment. You had no expectations. You went, you wanted to feel it out, you wanted to get to learn, you were open-minded, you were curious, and all that. Second time around, you're like, this is how it should be, this is what we should expect, this is how we should see things. You see how the differences between the two? We do this in our life, and we've been programmed and conditioned to do this in so many different ways. And that affects our consciousness, which makes us miss out on what could have been there. Let's say that the service and the staff, if maybe your energy was a little more closed off and maybe it was a little bit more direct and you weren't as excited as you were the first time. Maybe the tone was, there's so many variables that could come from that. But what I'm trying to tell you is that experience, because you held that in your mind to be a certain way and you wanted it to be a certain way and expecting it to be that way, and it wasn't the exact same. You didn't get the exact same feeling inside. You didn't get this. It wasn't checking the boxes anymore. And so from there, all of a sudden, you're like, yeah, this may not have been, it's not as great as I thought it was. I didn't enjoy it as much as I did. Okay. That's normal experiences that people do in many different ways. What can you do that would be different? Go back and be as curious as you can. Act like it's the first time you've ever been there. Let go of all expectations. Just say, I'm going to go into this thing. I'm going to enjoy whatever shows up. I'm going to enjoy this is like my first time. I'm going to try to put myself in that state as much as you can. I promise you, it's not ever going to be the same like the first. The law of diminishing effects states that one time, every time you get exposed to something, it's less and less and less and less. That's why people who say, I moved to the beach. Oh my God, I'm so happy I'm at the beach. I'm going to go to the beach all the time. Or it's like someone who has a pool. Oh, if I had a pool, I'd be in the pool all the time. No, you won't. Ask pool owners how many times they go in their pool. It's a lot less than you think. And at least my experience has been that from talking to them. And it's the same thing. Like I knew, here's an example for myself. I moved to the Knoxville. I said Smoky Mountains. I'm going to be going to Smoky Mountains, and I'm going to go to the trails at least once a month. So I'll hit 12 trails a year. I'll do, I've been there for almost 3 years. I should be at 36 trails. I think I'm only at 1, maybe 2. You just get used to having it being near you. I've been to the Smokies multiple times. I just didn't do the trails. So it's one of those things where but the key is trying to see things as a curious cat, first time ever, again, as much as you can. No expectations. You've never been here before. You're going to just enjoy the process. You're going to enjoy the moment. You're going to take it all in and just experience the different levels of what it is on so many every aspect of what that experience may be. And when we are at that state of coming back to our consciousness, our true essence, that state of neutrality, that state of acceptance, surrender, knowing that, moments are just unfolding all the time. And some moments may not be the same like the one before. And that's perfectly normal. It's supposed to be that way. Life is always bringing us different tastes. That's why every day is a different day. That's the other thing too, right? Let's think about it. Every day in your life is a different day. It's vastly different than the day before. The things you do may be the same, but every experience, every choice, and everything that shows up is different. The energy exchange is totally different. But because our mind is so fixated on seeing things only as every day, being the same day, Well, it's just Monday. Well, what do you do Monday? Go to work. What do you do after that? Well, after work, I have to go home. I got to make dinner for the family, or I'm going to have dinner with my family. And then after that, I'm going to watch TV until I fall asleep. And you do the same thing over and over, and you say to yourself, my days are just the same. But there's actually a magic that's happening without you seeing it, because your consciousness is shifted and focused to that. I hope you're grasping this. And again, it's only the first podcast of many episodes of what I'll be doing with this. But I wanted to just throw something out there to start the conversation and just start to get you into this journey of what I'll be taking you guys through in the second part of season 6. And we're going to dive deep. I'm going to talk about how consciousness alters matter. I'm going to talk about how your consciousness, and there's the stream consciousness, and then there's the will consciousness, the will of the consciousness of the will, and the consciousness of the stream. I'm going to get into quantum physics and neuroscience and talk about how these things affect your life, how you choose really different experiences and what you choose, and then how to come back to a neutral state, how to neutralize things. So that way you can handle the experiences better, whether it's a good feeling or bad, and just hone in that moment and just appreciate and enjoy where you are, and just enjoy the moment of wherever you are, and not get so like hung up. And I see this in clients too, when they start doing some energy work, right? Let's say they're meditating, breath work, and all this, and then their business starts to improve. I'm like, see, this stuff works. And I'm like, no, you're caught in a trap, because you think what you're doing here is improving that. And that's not what your mind is using that as a preference. Your mind is saying this with him. Because then what happens when it doesn't work that way? Because it will happen too. Then all of a sudden the stuff doesn't work anymore. And see how you get caught up in a trap? So it's how to get out of the trap, get off the hamster wheel, and truly embrace life for the fullness of what it brings for you, and to really get free from the chains that we hold ourselves down with. Yeah, I can call it the subconscious mind. We'll get into that. We'll talk about hearts, scars of the heart, traumas, stories, the programs, the software that runs, all these different things. We're going to dive into all this stuff in the second half of season 6. And I promise you, whether you are in business as an entrepreneur, this will benefit you. If you are a person who is a stay-at-home mom, or you're in high school, or you're in college, these things that I'm sharing will help benefit you in your life. It's going to help you enrich your life and find for more fulfillment. This is the path that I spent the last 6 months diving deep, some deep soul seeking, some spiritual seeking, deep within, and to understand a lot of meditations, a lot of time with myself, to really see what is this podcast that I want to continue to create, the mindful experiment, right? And it was always about the mind. Well, now I want to take it even further and go to a whole nother level. And I know that sharing these principles is going to help people be able to find that fulfillment, to free themselves from suffering and so much more. I've written these in my books, and I realized that I saw a common theme in my books that I've been writing. And I was like, oh my God, that's what I'm really trying to achieve. Because book number 4, that day will come. My goal is 2025. I will have my 4th book written. And this one's going to be all about reconnecting to ourselves, the essence of who we are beyond this. When we leave this, when we transition out of this world, it's how do we connect that and bring that here to give it the fullest, richest experience ever. And like I said, I'm bringing a lot of science to the table. I'm going to bring a lot of neuroscience. I'll be teaching things, sharing things that I've already been teaching. In the podcast, I've done it already. In my books, I talked about it. But it's using the tools in a different way to help you in the most simplistic way to start to make the shift, to enrich your life to the fullest. Remove the baggage. Remove the program. Remove all the images, the thousands upon thousands of images that we put over this thing called the TV. And it's really just our consciousness. And just really taking in what this life is all about. And knowing that life is coming in from outside in. And then we're interpreting that. And I will get into all that, because our consciousness is really based upon our conditioning of it, is what's allowing us to have certain experiences. But that's not the essence of who we are. And it's bringing back that essence to see things just as is. It's reclaiming your power back so you can choose the experiences of what you want in your life and what they mean for you, because you define it at the end of the day. And we will get into the quantum physics of that. We'll get into the neuroscience of that. Some of the stuff I shared in bits and pieces, but I'm going to put it together and to really start to create that process. So I'm excited to share that with you, and I'm excited to be here with you and do that. And I'm grateful for you to be here and listening. So, may not have got a whole lot out of this one. I'm hoping it's just been, if you're feeling like there's a lot of stuff he just shared and I don't know which way he was going with that, good. That's what I want right now, because I'm just starting to share different basic principles of that. If you're getting this and going, oh my God, I've heard this before, I love it, thumbs up. Like I said, we're going to get into a lot of these things, and it's going to fine tune and get more and more specific as we continue. It's just like when I first did my first episode of the Mindful Experiment, I shared everything that we were going to be doing, our purpose, or why we want to share people with infinite potential of who they are, and all these other things. And there was a lot of things all over the place. But as the podcast started to evolve and episodes started to come out, people started to see it was more specific and there was a purpose behind it. And I'm bringing that back to the table for you guys. So I'm excited to bring that here. You are consciousness. You are eternal. You are immortal. There is no one else here that's ever going to experience anything that you're experienced in your life. That's the beauty of all this. Again, I'll say that again. No one will ever experience the life that you have experienced. It's yours and only yours. It is unique to you. And we'll talk about why that's critically important too, and how that plays overall in the theme of everything of this experiment called life. So I look forward to that. Again, if you like this, please like it. Please share a review, subscribe so you don't miss any other episodes. And stay tuned till next week as we showcase more on the mindful experiment about consciousness, how to really tap into your true potential, how to break away from the ball and chain, and how to truly live the best life. So be ready, be prepared. Have an amazing week, and I'll see you on the next one.